is unreal. The crowd now are in raptures. He's going to go all the way. What a try. Whoa, what a finish.
Well, a new chapter will be written into Currie Cup history in 2018. It's a competition this year that will see every match counts with just one round of fixtures between the teams. So vitally important for teams to get off to a winning start right up front. We're looking forward to what should be a wonderful launch. We've got captains, we've got a couple of players, representatives from the various teams. We also, Elma, have some sponsors here.
Yes, but before we start talking about what 2018 holds as far as Carey Cup is concerned, maybe since it's the cornerstone of South African rugby, we should take a moment to look back at the past and the prestigious history that this trophy holds.
The Carey Cup has been the cornerstone of South Africa's rugby heritage for over a century. Not only is it the oldest domestic competition in the world, it also encapsulates and personifies the rich history and tradition of the game in the Republic. The story of the Carey Cup stretches back to 1889 when the newly established South African Rugby Football Board organized the first countrywide domestic competition. The tournament was held in Kimberley, with Western Province the inaugural winners. Also present in that very first provincial exchange were Griqualand West, Transvaal and Eastern Province. The Cup itself only arrived on South African shores 2 years later, when a touring British Isles squad travelled with a particularly precious bit of cargo, a golden cup donated by Sir Donald Currie, owner of Union Castle Lines, the shipping company that transported the team to the southern tip of Africa. Sir Donald was clear with his instructions: hand the trophy over to the team that gives you the best match on tour. And after a spirited display, Griqualand West became the first ever holders of the Carey Cup Trophy. 126 years later, the tradition remains. And while the changing landscape of the professional era has seen the tournament adapt, it remains the holy grail of rugby union in South Africa. Right, well, a lot of excitement here as we look to extend that Carey Cup history, and you saw its origins. Mark Jury and Andy Cahoon are with me here. Mark, Head of Acquisitions at SuperSport. Wonderful to have you gentlemen here. Congratulations. Welcome, firstly. The relationship between SA Rugby as a representative and of SuperSport is a long-standing one, and I think the Carey Cup probably best encapsulates that relationship. I'll throw to you guys. Mark?
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much. Nice to be here. Nice to see you, Andy, as well. Look, I think it's been said a few times today that Carey Cup is the cornerstone of South African rugby, and I think it's something that we'll keep referring to and listening to this afternoon. For us as a broadcast partner of SA Rugby's, it's a critical competition as part of the rugby calendar. It rates extremely well, and so the interest in the competition is certainly there, and we're excited with a single round of games. I think, a lot of what fans are asking for is probably less is more at the moment, is the reality, and more sport of more context, and hopefully a single round Carey Cup competition is going to provide that.
Yeah, there's obviously, it's been a testing time insofar as rugby goes in the last couple of years, Andy, and there was a little bit of upheaval, changes taking place, but the Carey Cup has survived. That must be a huge boon for SA Rugby.
Yeah, it's the golden thread that runs through South African rugby, as your intro said, from 1891 when it first came out, and it still is the heartbeat of the game. And the young players that will be playing in the competition this year, in 2 or 3 years, they'll be Springboks. They'll be running out with the green and gold on their backs. It's where players are blooded, and it has got that fantastic provincial rivalry. We'll see the players in their jerseys today. Those stir emotions in the supporters. And when it comes to those Saturdays in this sprint, this every second counts competition this year, it's going to be some thunderous rugby.
New rules as well to look forward to. There always changes, but I suppose the Carey Cup now, given the fact that it's a bit of a breeding ground for South African rugby players, and hopefully those who will excel and move on to even greater achievements, great opportunity to test out rule changes, adaptations to the game.
That's right. It is a short competition. The Carey Cup history is a history of changes, of different formats. It started out as a league in 1 week, and now we've gone to a new structure. As I say, it's 6 matches for each team to the playoffs, semi-finals and a final. So if you win 3 games, you've got a good chance of making the final. Last year we saw Griquas and Pumas. They both won 4 matches, beating Western Province and Free State and the Lions. So they're in it, and they've got a chance this year, and I'm sure they're very excited about this format, because if you cause that upset, you've got a very good chance of making the playoffs. So it's one of those competitions where you can't miss a second.
Mark, you speak about the fact that less is more, and certainly there has been a little bit of concern with regards to numbers, but in terms of the research you guys have, it's not really what people necessarily perceive. People are definitely still watching the Carey Cup.
Yeah, Koda, I think the reality is people's lives are busier probably than what they were 10 years ago. I think you see that in terms of their behavioural patterns and how they consume sport. It's a great opportunity of why we've obviously launched DSTV now, so you can watch all the games on the go. But the audience numbers for us are up quite significantly year on year in terms of Carey Cup, and we wouldn't see why there would be any difference this year. People are still wanting to watch their games run out their teams run out every Saturday. And I think, people always look at perhaps crowds in stadium and create their own perception. But certainly the interest in the competition from what we're seeing on TV is that those numbers are growing.
And what does that mean from a sponsorship point of view?
Yeah, obviously, I suppose for them, sponsorship is around both engagement and obviously exposure. And I think for each different brand getting involved in the competition, they'll have their own objectives. But certainly in terms of the interest, the awareness, the fact that the Carey Cup is beamed around the world is of huge value to both Direct Access and Nashua.
Well, talking about Direct Access and Nashua, those two companies are represented here today and in the arena. Alma, I think you've got 2 gents representing those 2 organizations.
Thanks so much, Kola. Yes, we've got Robert Kwerengwe here he's the Group CEO of Direct Access. Robert, it's great to have you here. Unfortunately, Mark Taylor from Nashua couldn't make it here just in time this afternoon. But Robert, let's talk about Direct Access. Your value offering, what you guys bring to South Africans, and then why you decided that rugby was the vehicle with which you'd like to promote that message.
Thank you. So Direct Access is a financial services business. We're based in Cape Town. We predominantly focus on loans and insurance. So we've been around for 22 years and have grown quite well over the last 22 years, as I've said. And in terms of the Currie Cup and rugby, for us, we were looking for an opportunity to create more awareness and engagement around our brand. And strategically, we highlighted sponsorship as an opportunity for us to do that. And so we looked at the various opportunities that were available to us, and we're fortunate enough to come across a conversation with Saru and then end up sponsoring the Carey Cup.
This is your 3rd year sponsoring Carey Cup, correct?
It is.
Tell me about that decision to stay with this competition. Obviously, it's really working for you.
Look, it is. I mean, the Carey Cup, it's been said a few times today, it's the cornerstone of South African rugby. It is, if you look at the origins of the Cup, it's around the spirit, it's around an opportunity for individuals that may not have had opportunities. If you look at the Springbok squad that's training now, I think you've got the likes of Damian Willemse in there who they rose to prominence through this Cup. So for us, also being underdogs in the market, it sort of resonated quite well with us that we partner with the Carey Cup and sponsor it. So it's been working for us. We obviously track our key metrics quite closely, as any business would. And we'll continue to do that, but so far so good.
I'm going to be asking you shortly about your personal hopes and who you are a fan of. Every one of us has our favorite team, or at least the one that we're backing because we think that there might be some trophy winning chances towards the end of the campaign. But of course, we've got a lot to look forward to in terms of action before the 27th of October. Kola?
Yeah, certainly, and it all gets cracking this Friday, the 17th, and as I mentioned, a shorter format, a shorter competition. Should be quite exciting. Andy, a lot of the focus, and you will see as we continue on today, is on the history of Carey Cup. It's almost inevitable that we preserve that history. It is a very rich history. The Carey Cup Trophy itself is in studio, but before we take a closer look at it, is that the actual trophy? Because I've heard stories.
Well, we've got a couple of them. They're very expensive trophies to make, and if one was to get lost, we'd be in trouble. They're made in the UK. They were made by the Crown Jewellers, Garrard and Sons in London. If you want to recreate one, it costs you about £50,000 now, which is a lot of rands. So yeah, we've got ourselves covered.
But it's been lost a couple of times, definitely broken and dinged and dented and bruised a number of times as well.
30 rugby players at the end of a game, and you hand it over to 15 who've won it in a struggle, or 23 who've won it in a struggle now, and a bunch of coaches. It goes into the change room, it is drunk from, it is picked up, it is carried, it is taken home, it is put in the boot of cars, all the things that they don't tell the organisers and the owners of the trophy. And yes, it has had a few scratches and scrapes over the years. In 2013, we had it refurbished back in the UK. The handle had been snapped off. We won't say who it was, but it might have happened in Bloemfontein.
We know who it was.
It might have happened in Bloemfontein, and it had been reinserted by, we think, a garage mechanic. So we had to restore the handle, a beautiful laid-back figure of a female, which had got a bit grubby and a bit dinged and bashed, but she is now back to her former glory.
Diesel mechanic. Bloom's got diesel mechanics. I think that's what happened there. But Mark, I mean, we speak about the number of people who are still watching, viewing Carey Cup, which is absolutely wonderful. But from a broadcast point of view, I suppose it's a no-brainer because this competition has filled a void which was created after the exit of the Vodacom Cup. This is now the competition that breeds young talent.
Yeah, I think, you know, and seeing some of the players here today, it's the first time I've been called Oom before. I didn't think I was so old. But you can sense that. I mean, they are proper athletes, and I suppose for many of them, it's the first time that they get to show their skills on a global stage as well. So certainly something we look forward to, and I'm pretty sure you'll see a couple of the guys coming through in the Carey Cup, probably pushing for places in the end of season or end of year Springbok tour, as is the case year after year.
Am I allowed to ask which team you support?
I grew up in Maritzburg, so I'm fully behind the Sharks. I still can remember Craig Jameson lifting that trophy many years ago.
Banana Boys.
Absolutely.
Oh, jeepers, how things have changed. But that's a very fascinating history, and we'll see some of it a little bit later when we delve into the history of the various teams. But Natal, or the Sharks, they are now very strange. It took them 100 years, Andy, to win the Carey Cup, and then after that, they just in the 90s took off.
That's right. They won it 7 times now. But that's the interesting thing about the history. When it started off, there was only 5 foundation members. Northern Transvaal was only formed after the Second World War. And then the Pumas now, they were founded in 1969, so they're a newcomer to it. They're the only team in the competition this year that's not won it. They won the SuperSport Rugby Challenge early this year, I'm sure, in Nelspruit and other places. They're looking forward to this competition. They've got it between their teeth now. So yeah, there's some excitement to come.
Yeah, a lot of people will know you now as the GM of communications for SA Rugby, but what a lot of people don't know is that you used to write books, historical ones, and you were a journo.
I can get very boring on the subject of the Carey Cup. Yeah.
Well, we won't have any time for that as we go back to the arena, and we've heard from Direct Access. They're not the only sponsor. The other main sponsor or headline sponsor to the Carey Cup, of course, is Nashua, which is a pity that he's not there, Alma, but there certainly is, it seems, a want to still retain the essence of what the Carey Cup stands for.
Most certainly. And we were just laughing at your conversations around the Banana Boys, and I leaned over to Robert and said, what's the first time you can recall hearing about the Currie Cup?
Yes, so I recall hearing about the Carey Cup. It's probably 20-odd years ago during, I think it was the glory days for Western Province at the time. And I was in university at the time, actually. And there was a buzz in the races around the Carey Cup and watching the finals. And that's when I started getting into the Carey Cup. And I picked the team that I support today back then.
Based on that?
Based on that, and that they played very good rugby, and it was very entertaining, and I just stuck with them.
And they have certainly paid off, because of late they've also really been performing particularly well.
Yes, they have, and I'm told as a sponsor I can't pick a side, but as the fan I definitely can. So I'm certainly a Western Province fan.
You've got one of those little striped jerseys, but you only wear it at home.
Yes, or when I think we're going to win a match.
Or when you think the chances are looking good. Yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity, as Kola has also mentioned, for young players to come through the ranks. A few that you've perhaps been inspired by over the last 2 years. You know, you mentioned Damien a little earlier. That's another Western Province name.
Yes, Damien, I think, stands out. And also, I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet him. Very humble young man, hardworking, which is great. A few minutes ago, I bumped into Spoon Corsi, also a great story. What he's managed to do in the green and gold as well. So for us, it's amazing for us to be part of the story of the Carey Cup and to, in some way, be part of the story of helping some of these players along.
Yeah, really inspirational human stories of triumph and grit and determination under pressure. We will be back shortly and getting to know a few of those players who joined us here today. This is the launch of Currie Cup 2018. If you've just joined us, you're just in time for the Currie Cup 2018 launch, and we are bringing you a sneak peek at what you can expect from this year's rejigged format of this competition, and also some of the players who will be in action. We are joined by a player representative from each of the unions here in studio today. And first up, I'd like to call on the union that finished top of the log after the round-robin phase of the 2017 edition, from the Cell C Sharks, Spoon Corsi.
The Cell C Sharks endured a long wait for their maiden Carey Cup title. Having been founded in 1890, their first tournament win came in 1990. Since then, the Sharks have won the Carey Cup a further 6 times, most recently in 2013. Robert Tubria continues as head coach, and Chiliboy Ralepele will be the captain.
A lot of the young DHL Western Province players are still in France, but lucky for us, Eve Viljoen came to join us here in Johannesburg for DHL Western Province.
DHL Western Province embodies the history and heritage of the Carey Cup, founded in 1883, winning multiple titles, including a record 34 Carey Cup titles. They are the reigning Carey Cup champions, having seen off the Sharks last year in Durban. This year captained by Siyabonga Ntubeni, with John Dobson continuing as coach.
Next up, they might have played a 3rd consecutive Super Rugby final, but what will we see from the Xerox Golden Lions? Here today to tell us about that, Andries Kutsia.
The City of Gold is where the Xerox Golden Lions are based. The Lions, or Transvaal as they were previously known, are the 3rd most successful side in the history of the competition, with 11 titles to their name, one of which was shared. They last won the trophy in 2015, and the coaching responsibilities will be shared this year, with head coach Swayze de Bruin rejoining the box.
And as you might have noticed, I'm calling them up in order of the way they finished on the log. The Blue Bulls might not have finished top of the log, but last year they were the highest try-scoring side, and Lizo Qoboga is here to represent his team.
The hallowed turf of Loftus Versfeld is home for the Vodacom Blue Bulls. The team is one of the most successful in Carey Cup history, having won the title on 23 occasions. They last lifted the famous old trophy back in 2009. And this year, they'll be coached by Pote Himan and captained by Handro Liebenberg.
Joining us from Bloemfontein on behalf of the Toyota Free State Cheetahs, Rudy Page.
The Bloemfontein-based Toyota Free State Cheetahs have only won the Carey Cup title 5 times. They remain, however, one of the most successful teams in recent history, winning the Cup 3 times consecutively from 2005 to 2007. They last won in 2016 and this year will be coached by Don Heeman.
Next up from the I-College Pumas, it's Wayno Fisagi.
Formed in 1969 as Southeastern Transvaal, the Pumas are one of the younger unions in the country. The team has never won the Currie Cup. That said, the Pumas are no easy beats. Their major tournament wins include Carey Cup First Division in 2005, 2009 and 2013. This year sees the return of popular coach Jimmy Stonehouse.
And joining us from the Tafellager Griquas, it's Kevin Kaba.
Tafellager Griquas have a heritage that stretched back to the foundations of the Currie Cup, having been founded in 1886. Based at Griqua Park in Kimberley, they have won the Currie Cup on 3 occasions in 1899, 1911 and 1970.
And now that you know that, who you'll be hearing from shortly, let's take an opportunity to look at the family ties that you can spot if you take a closer look at the Currie Cup and the people competing in it.
Every little boy wants to be like their dad, and luckily for me, I got the chance to be like him.
Coming out of the Becker family, I was about the only Becker who played rugby from outside of the family.
Elke keer as ek die blou trui of die groen trui oor my kop getrek het, was my pa daar gewees.
So proud. I mean, he's following in the footsteps, not by name, but in doing his thing on the field.
Jy speel vir die pelle rondom jou, jy speel vir jou ma en jy speel vir jou pa.
It's just this unreal passion about the whole Currie Cup. In 3 words:
traditional,
history,
passion. 80 minutes of hard work, of blood, sweat and tears for a lifetime of memories.
It's what rugby, the backbone of South Africa's rugby has been made of, and it's hopefully always going to be here, never going to go away.
So Chris Van Zyl then will lead out the Western Province team in his 50th match for the province, and what a wonderful milestone for a great rugby family. His brother Anton played for Western Province too, and his father Mike for Natal.
Advantage
on the opposite wing, and now the captain Anton Van Zyl, there's the bonus points.
Absolutely bar-storming run here from Ollie Campbell. Still going, he's a hard man to bring down. He's from excellent stock. His dad, a former Springbok.
What about the impact this man has made? What about the carry he's provided and the strength he has used to get over the try line from David Creer, the brother of Tertius Creer?
Tertius Creer could play from the centre. Great running from him. He's still going. This could be an unbelievable try. What a finish that.
Karel de Bessie. Prachtige swenk op die grond. Is baie gevaarlik. 'n Wonderlike loop en 'n 3 vir Karel de Bessie. De Bessie wat weer gaan net aan.
Du Plessis managing to stay up in the tackle, and the try is awarded. Well, he had a huge amount to do to Daniel Du Plessis.
Quick ball required, and Sneeman gets out wide. Skip on the left wide. Visser must street over the 22 back inside. Here goes Visser. Edson Dulani. Total try. Total rugby by the Blue Bulls.
Just outside the 22-meter line, and now they're running for the tricky position. Ngane coming right back at them. Ngane finishes off 2, and he is over the line for a crucial try.
Dat is de vastkop gewinnen door Transvaal. Inderdaad, Bucket Gelden is wat reden. Manoeuvreerd en hij gaat hem druk.
Van Heerden. He's away. There's the try line, and that's it. Game over. Vickers van Heerden gets his second.
Chase coming from Peter Rousseau under your bears over there. Under your bear loses control, and Peter Rousseau does the rest.
Rousseau, that's not a bad little kick by Chris Rousseau. To Blanche goes back. Terrible bounce. Chris Rousseau! Great advantage by Andre Watson. The Lions will be the 2011 ABSA Carey Cup champions. Geland waiting and waiting, and Tony Yankees is able to dive it in with another wonderful bit of timing.
Daniel Duprier, the reach is good. Power. Whoa. 20-year-old Daniel Duprier.
It looks like it's Jean-Luc Duprier who's getting the accolades.
Out it comes from Divin after, and there's the try from Robert Duprier.
It's a good carry by the toy. He's had a solid outing this afternoon. He's been good at line-out time. Head down, backs himself, and he finishes.
Here it comes from Peter Steff to Toy. Try! Well, he's kept a brilliant performance in almost every respect. Promising here. And the offload for April. There is the hat-trick for Brendan April. Wonderful finish.
Janssen van Randburg, wonderful line run by April, and he's, oh, what a try, Garth April.
Top goal attempt from C.S. Everson. He struck it well. Is it straight? Yes, it is.
Hilda Watts through the space. Brilliant running this. Yes, the finish. That's surely going to come. It's Robert Everson.
Falco with ball in hand. Can they hit back? Can they reply? Oh, that's a lovely break. And this could be the opportunity. Surely he should have paused, but he'll still do it. He'll still get over. It's JP Mostert will dot over for the Falco. What a reply.
Yeah, playing advantage.
Breaks away. The flanker breaks. He's got 2 men on his outside. Gets it up to Mostert. The bonus point is the kick.
The blood ties are real, the heritage is really special, and we've got some pretty immense talent participating this year in the Currie Cup. We'd like to welcome all of our players on set. It's lekker om van jullie te zien. The 3 other guys didn't leave just yet. They've just joined Kola on his side so that he's not alone. Of course, you can use that hashtag SSRugby for the duration of the Currie Cup. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on the competition format this year, and also who you will be backing. Now, Rudy Page, you're a guy who's made some headlines this year. You've moved from Pretoria to Bloemfontein. Has the moving lorry left with all of your stuff already?
Yeah, currently my house is packed up in storage, but I'm staying with one of my teammates in Opa. But yeah, I've enjoyed the move so far and looking forward to the next few years, hopefully in Bloem.
So what's the vibe like in Bloem now? Are you and Opes the Omane there in the team? You must be the 2 senior Oaks.
I'm feeling pretty old currently in our squad. Yes, I call him my landlord. But luckily for us, the young guys are keeping us on our toes and making sure that we're not too outdated.
It's interesting that you guys this season have the double challenge of playing in the Pro 14 and the Carey Cup at the same time. But I guess that means that should you suffer crucial injuries in the one, that you'll be able to have match fit guys to draw on both ways.
Yeah, I think it's obviously very exciting for us as a group and as a franchise to be playing in both top competitions. I think for youngsters, they're going to get the opportunity very younger than other guys that other unions have. So it's exciting, it's challenging, and we're really looking forward to it. Now,
before I get to you, Evia, I just want to take the opportunity. I've got Rudy Page here with me. He's, of course, with the Cheetahs. Kola, on your side, you've got Lizo Qoboga, and these are, of course, the 2 teams who will be getting the competition underway this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 3 gents here with me, and Lizo, the fascinating thing with you, Lizo, is that you started playing rugby fairly late on. So I assume that you weren't necessarily watching a lot of Carey Cup as a youngster or when you were still at school, but I suppose now it's in the blood.
Yeah, definitely. It's great. It's an amazing tournament. The first time I was called to the Springboks, I was playing Carey Cup, so I respect a lot, and it's really a pride of this country, that is the Carey Cup, because, it has produced a lot of players. Eben Ezebeth didn't play Super Rugby before. He played Carey Cup and straight to the Springboks. So it has produced a lot of players, so it's really a pride.
So what a lot of people might not necessarily know is that when you were playing Carey Cup, you were actually still learning the finer bits and pieces of being a front row forward. I mean, you were still learning some laws and stuff. So Carey Cup obviously is wonderful for that.
Yeah, did give me an opportunity. You know, I just made my move, you know, my switch from 8th man to prop. So I was just purely, you know, playing with strength, and I didn't know any technique of it. So, you know, working with guys, you know, like Robbie Kempson, you know, in the Carey Cup helped me so much because he's got so much experience. He's a Springbok himself and he's played this competition. So it does give you an opportunity.
We're testing you. We're making you stand because I didn't see you walk in with a limp. You said you were injured. As far as we know, you're injured.
I am injured.
Are you injured?
Yes.
How long to go?
3 more months, then I'll start running again.
Okay, so you're almost on the way, but we're not necessarily going to see you in Carey Cup, though.
No.
Which is an absolute pity. Spuda, thank you. Still his mic. Before we go back to Alma. You also are on the mend. You missed out at the end of Super Rugby. You got injured. Missed out on Springbok selection. But how's your recovery going?
No, recovery is going pretty well. I'm about halfway there right now. It's about 4 to 6 weeks to go. And yeah, my physios and bios have been pushing me quite hard. And yeah, I appreciate them.
I'm sure Robert wants to see you there in the semi-finals.
I'd also love to be there in the semi-finals, finals part of things. The Carey Cup is very special. I think I matured very much as a player in the Currie Cup last year, so I'd love to be on the stage again and contribute what I can.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, you're standing next to Andries, who is in Lions colours. As a youngster, were you at JP?
At JP Pause, yes.
You could probably hear the rugby from Ellis Park. Did you think you'd be playing Carey Cup in red rather than in black?
I couldn't hear it from Ellis Park because I was in Ellis Park watching. Yeah, at some stages, I did think I was going to play the Carey Cup in different colours other than the ones I'm wearing now. But since I was a child, I've always wanted to be down in Durban playing for the Sharks. So that's where my mind was at the stage, but I was open to the possibilities.
Well, certainly has worked out immensely for you. We'll chat to Andries, and still a few more questions I have for these two gents. Alma, who've you got?
So it's interesting that you remark on Sbu growing up in Lions country and now running out for the Sharks, because we have a similar story here with Evie Viljoen growing up in Bloemfontein, now playing for Western Province. So it's great to have you, Evie. How are you doing with that hamstring injury?
No, thank you, Elma. It's recovering. I think about plus minus 4 to 5 weeks left. And yeah, growing up in Bloem, going to Cape Town was quite something to get used to. I think I'm still used to my Bloem English sometimes. So yeah, it was something to get used to, but the Oaks made it so nice for me and so easy just to fit in. And we were a bunch of good friends that joined together as under-19s, and yeah, they just made it easy. Talk
to me about that pressure that you guys now have going into this year's competition. You've done pretty well over the last few years. Unfortunately for you, you were not there in the final, but there's got to be some expectation in Cape Town now.
Yeah, no, it's a big motivation for us and the team and the whole union, and it's something we're looking forward to. We really want to go back to back. That's one of our main goals, to win it this year again. And like the new rules and everything, there's no time for slip-ups, and you have to perform every game. I mean, you can't lose a game, then you're almost at the bottom of the log again. So every game is going to be challenging, and that's something we're looking forward for.
It really is make or break. Wayne Versake, it's lovely to have you here all the way from Nelspruit. Although you are a product of Sirius in the Western Cape via the Sharks, now in Nelspruit. How's Nelspruit treating you?
Thanks, Omar. Thanks for having us, and thanks for having me. Nelspruit, I actually love it. I grew up on a farm there down in Sirius. And that's Nelspruit's kind of vibe, and it's amazing. I love it. Thanks.
So you guys obviously have a very different energy going into something like the Currie Cup, because you really have a point to prove. You've got big name teams who's got their name written all over that big trophy there. For the Pumas, what's your motivation going into this year's competition, and perhaps for you personally?
For the Pumas, our motivation, obviously, we come just from a victory, winning the SuperSport Challenge, and we're just trying to build on that. And as you just said, with the bigger teams, obviously, going to come down to Nelspruit, we're going to have to travel. And as you said, you have to prove a point, because we've always been seen as the underdogs, and that's massive. I actually like that. And for me, going into the Currie Cup, if I'm going to get some game time, it's going to be my first, going to make my debut, so it's going to be
You're
very
making your way back from a knee injury, but let's talk about, there's so many Pumas players over the last few years who have made name in the Springbok fold, Wayne van Mierlen probably being one of the best known ones. Who do you draw inspiration from when it comes to your personal journey?
My personal journey, obviously, if I'm going to have to take it back to my school career, I'm a centre. The guy I always have to look up to, or still looking up to, is John de Villiers. And I've been in his school. He was in Paul's Gymnasium. And just everything is the kind of person, humble, hardworking with all his injuries. And me coming back from his injury, and he still did his work and came back, play season after season. And that's just been my motivation, because an injury can sometimes put you back and double thoughts. And then you have to pick yourself up. But looking up to him, after all, he's still John de Villiers. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's a great icon, of course, of South African rugby. John de Villiers, one of our colleagues also here at SuperSport. Let's hear from Boobus. Andries could see has been pretty quiet there.
Yeah, he has been quite quiet. I didn't recognize him, you see, because he cut his hair. So I, for a moment, was trying to figure out who that guy is. But you're speaking to someone from Nelspruit, from the Pumas, and these two gents on the further side from me, supposedly both played and lived and grew up in Mpumalanga. Bubus, you were RTS Middelburg.
Yes, I was in RTS Middelburg. Played there my schoolboy rugby. Mostly thought I was going to play cricket after school, not rugby though. But yeah, happened at Craven Week, got a scholarship at Stellenbosch, and everything worked out. Yeah, now I'm at the Lions.
Well, you speak about the Lions. It's been a wonderful Super Rugby season, 3 in a row finals. You guys have played a lot of rugby, a lot of Super Rugby. You haven't had too much time to get ready for Carey Cup.
Yeah, fortunately for us, we have been playing a lot of rugby, enjoying it. We would say to be 3 years in a row in the Super Rugby final is an awesome experience, although to win it will be better. Yeah. But to prepare for the Carey Cup, yeah, it's a challenge, and we will take it as a challenge. And looking forward to the Carey Cup.
So, I mean, your Mpumalanga story, but you left a lot earlier than Bubus did.
Yeah, I did leave a little bit earlier. I played most of my schoolboy rugby in Mpumalanga. I played the under-16 Grand Coma Week for the Pumas, actually. And thereafter, I moved to Joburg and played Craven Week for the Lions. But I mean, the Pumas are still rooted deeply in my heart, where everything started, so I can never forget. Yeah.
Our chat is probably somewhat wrong, because we talk about it being a nice breeding ground for young players. And I mean, Andries, you're one of the senior players now in that Lions side, but I was struck, and Hugh Bladen mentioned it to me, that there are 4 Springboks who were standing on stage earlier. I'm with 3 of them, so there maybe isn't all that much truth to what everybody perceives about Carey Cup being only for young players.
Yeah, well, I see it as a great stepping stone to take it to the higher level. Although it's to play Super Rugby next year, or to play for the Boks, to put your hand up to play for the Boks. I see it's a great breeding ground for young talent that's coming through to put their hands up. So yeah, that's. I personally think that the Carey Cup is an awesome competition.
Is jy amper soos 'n coach in daai span? Want jy is een van die seniors.
No, I'm not the coach. I will give down my knowledge that I know, that I've learned over the years, and also learn through at the new guys what they bring to the team. As we say, you know, never all to learn.
Mfundisi, do you make the Bulls boys sing? Because I know you make the Springboks boys sing.
Always.
You do? Are you going to hit us with a song?
Oh my God.
Okay, no, I won't do that. I won't do that to him. I won't do that to him. But he's got an amazing voice. This guy, he can sing, Alma.
He can definitely sing. He's got a set of pipes to him. I know he's becoming a pastor, so he must practice that voice every Sunday. Kevin Kaba, it's lovely to have you here with us. Ghanaian-born NNMU representative, of course, from Varsity Cup, and now you're with Griquas. Tell me about the similarities, I think, in format now, because of 7 teams competing in a single-round competition. What you've learned, perhaps, from Varsity Cup that you can bring over to the Griquas.
Hi, Alma. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think it's always a pressure situation when there's fewer games to sort of, establish yourself in the season. But it's also a very nice type of situation, nice pressure, I'd say. Obviously knowing that every opportunity that you have counts and you got to make it count. And, obviously if you have to pitch up for every single game and stuff. So, having come from the Varsity Cup and going into this, it is very similar. So, you know that every moment counts.
Okay, before we let you go, just quickly, if there are any undecided fans out there who are perhaps still on the fence about who they are supporting in Carey Cup this year, what would you tell them to recruit them over to the Griquas side?
I'd say that, the Griquas have proven over the last couple of years that we belong in this competition. We have taken down a few of the top teams, and we look to do so again this year and go a bit further.
Wayno, you're smiling. Let's hear it for the Pumas. What's your rally call, your recruitment message?
Just look back at the SuperSport Challenge and you would know what you have in us.
Oh, the SuperSport Challenge, that's everything. Drops mic. Evie, Jelle?
We got a great supporting base, the HL Faithful, we call them, back at home and all over the country. And everywhere we go, the fans are always there to support us. So we just want to invite them to please keep on doing what they're doing.
But before we get to you, Rudy, I just want to go back here. Evie, are you also getting spammed with all of those photos and videos from France? Because they are driving me crazy on Instagram. No one wants to see how much fun they are having at the moment.
No, I've actually put the group on mute, so I don't have to see what they're doing, because they're just making me jealous. And because I also want to be there, but I mean, it's also fun to see the Oaks having fun and having a jewel, so it's very nice.
They're going to bring all the gears home.
Definitely.
Okay. Rudy Page, come now. I know you've got the pipes. Let's hear the story. Why should people back the Cheetahs this year?
I think obviously the Cheetahs are very proud union, and we love, and I've heard a lot from our coaches and the people from Bloem how much they love Carey Cup rugby. So this is everything for people in Bloemfontein. So all I can ask is come out, support us, come and cheer, come and smile, and come have a good time at Toyota Free State Stadium.
We've got a story about the Cheetahs the last time they won in 2016, but I'm not going to lift the lid on that comment just yet. Thank you so much for joining us, guys, and for coming through to Randburg. Back to you, Klola.
Yeah, thanks. We were having an informal chat. The guys were watching Kevin having played last year in the Varsity Cup for NMMU. And Lizo, can you believe, has never played in Kimberley. And now he's injured, so you get to miss it again.
I miss it again.
I think that's for a good reason. I don't quite understand what that's all about. Thank you very much, gentlemen. To those of you who are recovering, hope it's swift. Boo-boos, hope to see you on the field next week. And the Lions, of course, have a bye this week. Thanks again, gentlemen. When we return, I'll be joined by Hugh Bladen, and we'll delve into his memories and continue talking about the wonderful history of the Carey Cup. Well, the Carey Cup has produced a ton of heroes, some legends, a few of them, but only one Hugh Bladen, and I'm really happy to have Blades here with me. Uncle, you know this competition backwards, not even just from a commentary broadcast point of view, but from a player. It's changed quite a lot. It used to see huge crowds. It was the big thing in South African rugby, but I suppose that was for different reasons.
Yeah, Kula, I think, one must remember that through all the years the Currie Cup was presented, but only before 1968 there were only 7 finals. And so it used to be played on a league basis. When the Springboks went on tour, they didn't have a Currie Cup competition. When a touring side came to South Africa, they didn't have a Currie Cup competition. So it was in between. It was only in 1968 that from there on in, there's been a Currie Cup final every year.
From your young days, I mean, do you recall what it was like to have teams share the trophy? And what did that feel like? What was the sense? Was there a sense of victory?
Mornay du Plessis, when they drew with Northern Transvaal in one Carey Cup final, said it's like kissing your sister. I'm not quite sure what that means, actually.
Let's not ask.
They were, my first recollection, the first Carey Cup final that I read about was in 1956, when I was still in prep school and nursery school. And
not high school.
Then in 1968, of course, it was a period when I was in and out of the Transvaal side, and Transvaal played Northern Transvaal in the first ever Currie Cup final, where it's been a continuous thing every year since. When Transvaal played Northern Transvaal.
You played from 69, you played Carey Cup?
No, I first played in 65 in the early season of the Currie Cup, and then for the last time I played in 71 in the Currie Cup.
You also have your name on that old trophy there, which is a fascinating story, because they used to, of course, put all the players' initials and surnames of the winning team per year. They don't anymore. They just show the winning team.
I believe so. It was only some years later that somebody said to me, do you realize your name is on the Currie Cup? And I said, well, I didn't play in a Currie Cup final, so it can't possibly be, until somebody actually took me to the Currie Cup. In 1971, I played most of the season, and then there was a playoff game against Free State that they dropped me for. And then the following game was the final. But the golden boy of Transvaal rugby, who had gone to Western Province, Jannie Barnard, came back to the Transvaal, and so I was summarily discarded. But I don't know whether the engraver sort of thought that maybe I should be there. But I had played in every game but 2 in the year when Transvaal drew with Northern Transvaal in the final.
I heard the engraver's surname was Bladen. That's probably why.
Not impossible.
We'll keep chatting with Blades about some of his memories of the Carey Cup as a player, as a commentator. He's certainly seen quite a lot of them. Alma, you've got another historian next to you. We spoke about it with Andy a little while ago. He knows quite a lot about what happened in this competition in the past.
Yeah, and I thought it was so important to get him here and just continue that chat, since he really does know so much about it. So, Andy, within your role at SARU, you also look after heritage, and that obviously includes this trophy, but maybe just let's establish what that means in the broadest sense.
Well, SA Rugby has got about 5,000 artifacts, historical artifacts, charting the rugby history of South Africa since 1891 and even earlier. And it needs somebody or an organisation to look after it. So heritage falls into the communications department. We've got a heritage manager, Dr. Hendrik Snyders, who's a sports historian, and he does a lot of research around rugby questions and rugby issues. We run a museum, the Springbok Experience at the V&A waterfront, and we've spent a lot of time looking at our artifacts, checking what we've got, understanding the history, putting them together to tell stories about rugby in the past and what it means now and how it relates and the context it provides to current day rugby.
So if someone out there who is simply just a big Currie Cup fan and who loves the heritage of rugby wants to go see this trophy in real life, they can do this any day of the week?
Experience is open every day but Monday of the week, and we close on Christmas Day as well, but otherwise it's open, and the trophy's on display there. Obviously, when it wins, it goes to the teams as well, and they have it for their events and their functions, but we manage the trophy.
Let's talk about that that story of, you know, when you got the trophy back after the Cheetahs had celebrated in 2016, because apparently the trophy was a bit looking worse for wear.
Yes, the handle as you see it now is laying backwards, but unfortunately when we got it back it was actually vertical, and it is gold-plated silver. So the gold had been rubbed off over the years. So the female figure was naked, if you like, and we decided no, we can't have this. It needs restoring. It is our greatest artifact, and it was made by the Crown Jewellers in the UK, by Garrard and Sons in London, and it went back there.
And so she got a skirt in the process?
She's always had the skirt.
Okay.
She's bare-chested, but her chest had been rubbed smooth.
Okay, and then the actual cup, the gold part, what is that shape? Does it date back to something?
It's taken from classical mythology, and it's called a Grecian Helmet ewer. A ewer is a water jug. So if you can imagine it inverted on the head of a Grecian soldier back in the prehistory, that was the design that the Victorians took. It was originally part of a set. It would have been one of two, and it would have sat on either end of a Victorian sideboard with a silver platter or a gold platter in between, and water was served from it.
Okay, and wow, what an interesting history. So initially it was just the gold part?
Just the gold part. When it came here with Sir Donald Currie, the first sponsor of rugby, we think sponsorship's something we invented a decade ago, but he sponsored the competition, he sponsored the cup, and out it came with the 1891 British and Irish Lions tourists, and was presented to the South African team that put up the best performance against them, which was Griquas. But it was just a little short thing, but over the years, as more teams won it, the base was extended, those nameplates went on, nameplates came off, with teams putting their own nameplates on. So it's fairly random, it has to be said, but yeah, it's part of the culture, part of the history, part of the specialness of the trophy.
Wow, fascinating insights. Thank you so much, Andy Cahoon. Really interesting history of Currie and the cup that he gave us, as the players called him earlier.
We're not going to say too much about that, but Blaze, we spoke about you very briefly as a player. When did you start commentating?
In 1976.
And how much has the game changed? And I'm thinking particularly through the lens of the Carey Cup in those years. I mean, 1976 was a very different game of rugby football to what we see now. At least that's what I would assume. Or has it not changed?
Oh, yeah, it's changed enormously. First of all, the players are fitter, they're bigger,
yeah,
they're better.
Professional.
They're professional. So, you know, it was very much an amateur game right up until, you know, 1995, 96, when it started, the professionalism came in. But, you know, everybody had a job, or hopefully everybody had a job, 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then you trained on a Tuesday and a Thursday. In fact, I played for Wanderers, and so we trained on Tuesday at Wanderers, Wednesday for Transvaal, Thursday for back to Wanderers, and Saturday you'd play for Transvaal. So you'd have one practice before the provincial game. So, you know, it has changed hugely over the years.
Well, the one thing that always turns me on to the rugby season is hearing your voice, Blades, and people will be able to hear it over the course of the Carey Cup. Are you working this weekend or next weekend?
I'm working both weekends.
Both weekends. So there's no bye for you?
Not at the moment. I'm working Pumas, Griquas, and then Lions, Griquas the following Friday.
Well, you make it come alive, Blades. We certainly hope to hear you for many more seasons on Carey Cup and other competitions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, don't forget, of course, if you happen to miss the live action, you can catch it online, PVR in your pocket. So make sure you don't miss any of the rugby from the Carey Cup, which is about to start this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, log on to supersport.com for more details. If you like movies and you happen to like series as well, box sets, Showmax is where you want to end up, and it is available freely to subscribers of DSTV
Of
Premium.
DSTV. Yes,
So, yeah.
and of course, as usual, you can get all the news reviews and previews on our rugby magazine shows. Super Rugby bring dit vir jou maandag aande in Afrikaans. We've got Paga on Tuesdays. We've got First 15, and of course, we've got In Touch, which you can watch on social media and online on Thursdays.
Yeah, well, we look forward to what should be a wonderful season of Carey Cup. We've seen some of the players, you've seen some of the senior players, a couple of Springboks involved, a couple of youngsters. Should be fireworks. It's the shortest season, and whoever wins it right in the first round has got a really good chance of making the playoffs. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Al. Thank you, Blaze.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our guests as well today. Enjoy Carey Cup 2018. Thanks for joining us.
Best of luck to our teams.
This is unreal.